This is the Whole Care Network. Helping you tell your story one podcast at a time. Content presented in the following podcast is for information purposes only. Views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of the host and guest and may not represent the views and opinions of the Whole Care Network. Always consult with your physician for any medical advice, and always consult with your attorney for any legal advice. And thank you for listening to the Whole Care Network.
Hello, my friend. This is Isabel Melgarejo, your host, and you're listening to A Time to Care, the Caregivers podcast. Have you ever celebrated something that most people don't celebrate? For the most part, I don't do, and I think we should. Let's get started. As probably you heard during the last podcast, I did my naturalization exam and I will become a US citizen shortly. I'm just missing my oath. And probably you didn't care about that. The truth is that I had a big party and celebration yesterday. I invited my friends, my family. Some of them could come, some others couldn't, but I made the point on celebrating a huge milestone that has been in the cooking for many, many years now. So I decided to celebrate. And when I'm going through my story and everything that has happened, which I did, I made a recollection of how this journey started, having probably the worst night that I've ever had once, so worried that I missed an appointment. I missed an appointment with USCIS. And I had one of the worst nights in my life, if not the worst. And I recounted everything from the moment that I stepped on the US and started this journey. Now that it is not officially over, but definitely it's right now it's just like getting things done, like the hard part is done. I wanted to share that I don't remember celebrating each of the tiny accomplishments throughout this process. I didn't celebrate when I figured out that I was not going to die after I missed that appointment. I didn't celebrate when I received my first card or the second or the third. I didn't celebrate when I sent documents. I didn't celebrate in so many other moments. I just didn't. It was just what I had to do. I was very wrong. If we consider how we learn how to walk, how to ride, how to everything, there is so much celebration when you are a very young kid. People celebrate when you give your first step, and then they celebrate when you give 3, and then they celebrate when you give 10, and then they celebrate when you don't need to hold on to anything, and they celebrate when you stand up by yourself. Like, there is so much celebration when we're young. And as we grow older, we stop celebrating the little things in life. We don't celebrate that we walk, even though we were highly celebrated when we started doing it. Maybe we don't need to celebrate those kinds of things, but I do believe that we need to start celebrating minor things in our lives. Because after so many years, why did I wait 5 years to celebrate and to make friends and family part of this process? throughout this journey, I didn't stop to invite other people to celebrate any other of the tiny accomplishments that I had, which were tough because COVID was part of this process. Knowing that it was a tough process with a lot of hurdles, more than probably in other situations, I think it would have been great if I had celebrated. And I want to share why it is important to celebrate even small things. In the first place, it helps you create self-confidence and self-esteem. When you celebrate yourself, you feel great. When all my friends and family came, I felt so great. I felt so loved. All those feelings of greatness, of accomplishment, were great for me. If I would have celebrated even from the beginning, and I'm not saying with a big party, but if I would have started celebrating every moment with something special, my confidence and my self-esteem and my happiness would have been higher throughout this process. Another reason why it is so important to celebrate is that we're chunking this journey into smaller parts. The caregiving journey is a very long one. It is long and arduous and hard. A lot of times we feel like there's nothing to celebrate. But the truth is, there is always something to celebrate. There are small wins to celebrate. And I think it's so hard, this process in life, because especially when we see our loved ones that their health is decaying and probably it's not going to get better. It is so hard to celebrate. And still, I think we should. I think we should still celebrate when there are small wins within this process. I remember this time visiting my grandma after several brain aneurysms. I remember how her therapist would celebrate so much when she was doing progress with her writing. I think we should do that as well with ourselves, giving us grace with what we're doing better in this journey. As caregivers, what are you doing better as a caregiver, and celebrate those instances in which you are doing great. Celebrate yourself when you managed to control your temper and you didn't yell at mom. And I'm not saying that you have to throw a party for that, but maybe you can buy yourself your favorite coffee or go for a walk and celebrate that you were able to have those changes and that you achieved not yelling. Because when you celebrate these little moments, you are telling your brain that you're doing something right, and you're reinforcing what you have been practicing before. So how can you recognize a small win? You need to aim for progress and not perfection. And I know this is very hard as women because for the most part, I think if it's not perfect, then it's not done. I read this through a book that I've been reading, and it is so funny because if we're expecting everything to be perfect all the time, and well, that doesn't happen. We usually don't have all the energy that we need, and we usually need to make arrangements and stuff. But we don't need to aim for perfection. We need to start aiming for progress. So if we want to achieve something, maybe we can create smaller steps and smaller wins for that project. When I was a project manager, we would have milestones throughout the journey. And I remember that each engineering department, like the mechanical, the electrical, etc., would have different milestones. And within those milestones, people would, well, you don't celebrate, but basically you're done with that part of the process. Even though in the corporate world, we don't celebrate that, there were moments in the project that we would actually celebrate during a meeting. And those moments were very refreshing because it was letting everybody know that we had accomplished something within a huge project where sometimes thousands of people are involved. Even if the project is not that big to include thousands of people, be certain that there are hundreds of people behind big projects. When you see a bridge coming to life, you see the bridge, but there has been so many people behind that bridge making studies and making research and making engineering so that bridge doesn't fall. For every step, it is celebrated. So that's why it is important to celebrate the little milestones in our lives. We need to give ourselves grace when we do something right, when we achieve something, even if we fail the next time. And the same way as we were celebrated when we were able to give our first step, and probably the next time we fell, but we were celebrated. That celebration, because it was so big, made us step again, once again, after so many falls, and keep trying to walk. So I'm inviting you today to start making those little steps and celebrating in some way. You can cheer yourself up. You can invite yourself for something. And you can start playing with the different ways of celebrating yourself. You can start making different things and seeing and paying attention to what really calls into you. What's the best way in which you feel motivated and happy and powerful and ready to go for more? Because today, it is a good day to celebrate. Thank you so much for joining us today. It is a great pleasure to have you. I don't think I have anything to celebrate within this podcast besides my naturalization process. So I want to celebrate with you. Whatever you have today in mind, I congratulate you. You're doing great. Now, let's go for more. If you have a minute right now, please leave us a review. They mean the world to me. I love to hear from you and what you love about this podcast. So please leave us a review and talk to you next week.
This is the Whole Care Network. Helping you tell your story one podcast at a time.